People don't feel heard and valued when they're spoken at. They feel heard and valued when they're spoken with.
We're in a new year here, and there's a lot of unrest, changes, challenges from all of the things going on in the world. And today, like every week, I bring on an expert in a certain area, but this is someone I love showing love to and highlighting his services because of the passion and expertise he brings in helping you attract, recruit, retain, keeping employees where you are. And if you're watching on video, you're going to see a book behind him. I'm very honored to play a small role in helping him get that book out in the world. It's called Destination Employer. Stick around to the end of the episode. We'll tell you where to find that and everything else Gerry is involved with. But with that, Gerry, welcome back here to That Entrepreneur Show.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's always great to come back.
Yes, and of course, Gerry is one of my loyal mastermind goers, right? Every month we do a mastermind class here at Coming Alive Podcast Production. He adds value each month there, so I'm thankful for that. But everyone, before we dive in, let me welcome you back to another show here on That Entrepreneur Show, the #1 podcast to help entrepreneurs and small business owners get started, scale, and stay in business, right? There's no blueprint for this industry. And today we're going to help someone come on, connect the dots for you. And again, we're brought to you by Coming Alive podcastproduction.com. Gerry, before we dive back into your story, all the great things you're working on, I kicked it off with talking about how it's been challenging. There's been a lot of changes, especially if you're in America. As we're recording this, we're just, I think, getting out of the shutdown. So let's talk a little bit about this and the workplace that you're involved with.
Yeah, for sure. So 2025 this is going to be news to nobody, but has been a tumultuous year. Our government is busy hating itself with the left and the right side of the house at practical war. There's been an enormous amount of global uncertainty with Russia and Ukraine, China and Taiwan, South America, all of that stuff. We're in the midst of the AI hype cycle as people are learning how AI is going to change their workplace and even in some instances, their personal lives. The financial world has been in upheaval while the stock market is rocking, but the employment market has been weak. So there's just an enormous amount of uncertainty, and learning how to navigate that will largely dictate how your 2026 goes.
And all of those things, like we were talking about behind the scenes, they're probably going to be present again. And I know you can't get into the nitty gritty, but with the shutdown, there were work consequences for many Americans, but especially for you, as you're continuing to do a fantastic job at scaling your company. You had something big right in front of you, and then the government got shut down. So let's talk about that in what you can share.
A lot of my business is in the technology and intelligence space within the government. And so all of the tumult in the government has caused a lot of program realignments and project pauses. One of them was a very large municipal project at one of the larger cities in the United States. And it hurt, but that's really key in understanding success and long-term tenacity in small business. And that's dealing with those types of things and finding a path forward.
And a lot of the things we talked about that are going to still be going on this year, the 08 or 09 recession, right? We had around the COVID times. So these things, they're challenges. They're going to keep coming our way, but you've also done a great job at pivoting, keeping busy, and keeping your company growing in different ways. What are some things that you've been able to work on now while this project is on hold?
Yeah, so real quick, you said something I have to touch on. So I've been dancing this dance since the late 90s. So my first big shock was the dot-com bubble burst. Next big one was 08, and a third big one was really the transition from client-server to cloud-based technologies. And I learned something critical that you all need to learn, and that's this. Recession and uncertainty is a mosaic, not a portrait. By that, I mean it doesn't hit equally. There will be areas that do well and areas that do poorly. And you've got to diversify your client portfolio such that you can deal with those changes. If you're all in an area, and then that's an area that gets hurt, you're in a tough spot. So you want to make sure, again, you're diversifying. And that's frankly what we're doing now, is we're kind of rejiggering our portfolio a little bit.
Yeah, while we're on what you're doing, let's talk more about your company. Of course, Redbeard Solutions. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so we help Startups, early stage and smaller businesses to consistently attract the top talent in their market, get them to join the organization, and most importantly, to thrive while we're there. And without that ability, especially most of my clients are in the services industries, all different kinds of services. In those companies, the quality of your bench and your team directly impact the valuation of your company and, quite obviously, your ability to succeed in your mission. So that's what we do.
And you talked about those three things that I spoke about in the beginning, right? Attracting, recruiting, right? Keeping the people there. Can we get, we won't have enough time to dive into each, but a tip for each of those areas if there's any business owners or aspiring entrepreneurs out there listening on who understand the gravity of having strong talent on your team. What can you offer us, Gerry?
As I often do, I'm going to steal from the greats before me. Dr. Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind. You look at your company and ask yourself, what's my key role in this company? If you're a software development company, obviously it's software developers. If you're cybersecurity, you get the idea. If you're a building company, it's carpenters. Whatever it is, you look at that person and you build your ideal profile out of that. And then you do everything to that end. So from the attraction phase, you're writing job ads to that person. What do they want? What's in it for them? With recruitment, what is the best way to get a qualified candidate through that process as soon as possible? Long interview processes equal lost candidates. And finally, retention, you know who your rock star is. You know the bedrock you built your company on. Make sure your company is designed so that person thrives. You do those three things, you're miles ahead of the competition.
I love everything you said there, especially long interview times, losing candidates. Do you have
Yep.
a tip here that can help others shorten their interview process, perhaps?
150% yes. Number one, empower the least senior person in your organization who has the ability to do the job to make those decisions. The more people that have to sign off, the longer it's going to take. Second thing, make sure everybody involved in the interview process has to be involved and has the time to be involved. The number one cause for extended interview processes is juggling calendars.
I can certainly resonate with that. And we also don't want to probably overwhelm a candidate with 15 people in the room where Joe, Sally, and Rick aren't even decision makers or have any impact on the outcome or helping mold the company culture. And I know that's something else that you're big on and you help others really improve theirs. Company culture, what is it supposed to do? What is it supposed to mean?
Yeah, company culture is such a weird topic. It's one of the most important things that a company can focus on. It's something everybody likes to talk about, but it's something that nobody does anything about. Company culture, if I was to simplify it to its least level, it's just what it's like to work in your company, what it's like to be a part of the team. When you look at what it's like to be part of your team, you can go in two directions. Does that support the mission you're trying to achieve, or does it not? If it does not, you got to change it. If it does, then you can look at tweaking, but you're on the right path. And when you understand that, it goes back to that first principle of making sure that those job ads are directed to the people that are going to thrive in that culture.
Exactly. We don't want to be appealing to an area or a demographic that doesn't make sense for our company. And I learned this as a young speaker, as you know my story, Gerry. But if anyone's new to the show, after my accident, I spoke at my MBA commencement. I started getting speaking gigs after I spoke right here. That success quickly washes up, right? You have to find ways to not just ride the little waves. And the theme of the show with consistency, battling through adversity. In the beginning of the episode, we talked about some of those challenges. So now, if anyone missed your first episode, of course, everyone, I'll put the links in the description so you can follow Gerry's growth and inspirational journey along. What is one of your greatest lessons learned here through entrepreneurship?
Interesting thing. So I started Redbeard after we sold Aspirations. At time of sale was a 2,500 person company. When I went and I started Redbeard, it was just me for the first year or so. And my biggest mistake, the thing I learned is there's a time and a place for everything. I made decisions as though I was still an executive in a 2,500 person company, not a solopreneur looking to hire number one. And each one of those mistakes, oof, And then when I did hire, if I could one B this, one A answer, I hired somebody who made more sense in Apicero than he did in Redbeard, which is to say, too senior, used to larger organizations, not small ones. So remember your time and your place.
And we can all do this properly with the attracting the right talent tips we already talked about. And as we've learned a lot here on this podcast, in case there's some of you out there who rather read books than listen to podcasts, you do like self-development, so you do both. He's got an amazing book, Destination Employer. And let's start with what led you to write this book in the first place.
Yeah, we were wildly successful in Apicero, and we did some things that were very different than the 25 years before it that I'd experienced in business. And it really was an eye opener for me. And I want to share those lessons with the marketplace and give back so people could know what it's like to build a $250 million company in 5 years. And it's an experience, good and bad. So I wanted people to be able to learn from that and maybe do some of the things right that we did and avoid some of the mistakes that we made.
I love it. Is there a specific target reader for this book, someone it can help the most?
I would say most would be a technology services company founder or early stage owner or someone thinking of doing the same. If I would say a secondary audience, it's really anybody in services, whether you're a CPA, a software development firm, a lawyer, a carpenter, anybody who's in services would really benefit from this.
Thank you for sharing that. Everyone out there, if you are a service-based entrepreneur, we're going to find out where to get this book in just a few more minutes. And Gerry, as we are going to be in 2026, what are some of your bigger goals for the year? I know it's crazy to say.
Yeah, so my biggest goal in 2026 is to expand my team. I'd like to triple the size of my team. I'd also like to move more into consulting and the overall strategy part of the job. This last year, largely because of the market, we've been involved in more of the tactical stuff, which is important, but it's the tail, not the dog.
So we're going to be doing another pivot, you thinking?
Maybe more a step forward than a pivot. I'm looking to do the same thing in the same space, just a little further up the food chain.
I love it. Staying focused on where you need to be. And that's all been great. And now, Gerry, I want to make sure I show love to you joining the first episode of this year. We had our group panel with some amazing folks there. Gerry was on the call with James, Sheila, and we had Michelle on there, and that was a lot of fun. So be sure to go back and hear some different things than we talked about in today's episode. And do you see a second book coming, Gerry?
Yeah, I really do. So I've got a couple business things I have to get in place, but I really want to focus on the leadership part. So I've worked with more than 100 companies at this stage in my career, and I can say with the authority of that anecdotal experience that every problem that they've experienced has been a leadership problem. And there's just a couple key factors I'd really like to help people hone in on.
I love that. And is there a leadership tip, maybe, since you've been so kind in offering advice throughout the episode? Is there a tip for any decision maker, leader out there who knows that they're doing okay, but they know they can improve still in the leadership department?
100% yes. So servant leadership is not a new concept, but the part of leadership that's critical is focusing on the three pillars of your team's success: engagement, fulfillment, and growth. If they feel heard and valued, if they like what you and the company are doing and how it meshes with their personal values and goals, and they're growing in their skills in their career, then they're sticking around and they're performing at a high level. Those are really the three things I want to help people focus on.
I love that. Now, maybe say someone's having a tough time actually getting engagement back, right? Is there a way that they can improve that?
Yeah, stop talking and start listening. Most leaders' idea of a collaborative meeting is them talking 90% of the time rather, and every once in a while taking a breath by asking a yes/no question to the group. People don't feel heard and valued when they're spoken at. They feel heard and valued when they're spoken with.
I love that. I love to include my team as well. I don't look at them as employees, more team members, right? People on the team. We're all trying to get to the same place. And if we work together the right way, we can get there. And that's something as a leader, I'm always trying to improve, of course. But now, good questions coming because we're at the end of the show. And hopefully, Maybe a different entrepreneur, which entrepreneur throughout history, dead or alive, Gerry, would you choose to sit down with right now?
I think I would sit down with the very first entrepreneur in our country, which is Benjamin Franklin. He was such a polymath, such a Renaissance man involved in so many different things, science, business, politics, obviously. But he's America's first entrepreneur, and I'd love to get a feel for what he did.
Where would the meeting go down if you could choose that too?
Well, then I'll take a page out of my Marine Corps book. We do it in Tons Tavern. I'd be drinking a beer, but as a famous teetotaler, he'd probably be having some Earl Grey.
That's hysterical. And now we can't sign off because somehow your show didn't come up, and I want to make sure I show some love to your podcast, Business Mastery. Gerry, please share a bit about the show.
For sure. So, business mastery for startup, scale ups, and early stage business is a combination of facts that are important and skills that are important to those folks and interviews with people that are in that space, whether they be fellow founders, people who provide services into the space. But every episode is targeted at something important. It's never just two folks talking, it's always about what's important to startups, scale ups, and early stage businesses.
I love it. Well, let's shout out one of your episodes because it won't be recent when this airs, so people will have a reason to go back in the archives. Which episode is one that is worth absolutely tuning in if you're new to the show?
Gosh, there's so many that come to mind. I did a interview with an interim and fractional COO. His name's Joshua, and we agreed on very little, which made it exciting.
Ooh.
But what we disagreed on was powerful. That was a great episode.
And I think that's a teaser that I wanted to give you for this show. Everyone, again, it's Business Mastery, the podcast. His book is Destination Employer. And Gerry, where can we find you?
I'm on LinkedIn an embarrassing amount of time, so that's an easy place. You can find me on Amazon. Look up Destination Employer. Make sure that you leave an honest 5-star review. My podcast is on Apple. It's on YouTube, and you can check me out at either of my websites, destinationemployer.co, which is where the digital course attached to the book belongs and is, and my company, redbeardsol.com for Redbeard Solutions.
Well, thank you for sharing that, everyone. You may have seen him on one of my shows. You may have seen him at Boston Startup Week, but he is here, and I promise he will be back maybe end of year, following year. But I want to encourage everyone to subscribe so you don't miss people like Gerry coming on the show, where I work hard to find entrepreneurs who are not brand new, and they're here to throw their lessons learned at you. I got a lot of value today, so I hope everyone did too. My name is Vincent A. Lancey, and we're brought to you today by ComingAlivePodcastProduction.com. For guest inquiries or podcast production, email podcastsbylancey@gmail.com. That's plural podcast. And with that, we're signing off today. Gerry, thanks a ton.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I would love to hear your feedback. What did you love? What do you want to see more of? Are there any questions you would like me to ask the guests who come on the show? This show is not possible without you, the amazing listeners, so please email us at podcastsbylancey@gmail.com and let us know what you think. We'll also feature you on a later show. Please remember to subscribe to stay current with our amazing community of guests who will continue to come on the show, sprinkled in with solo episodes from me, Vincent A. Lancey. With that, I look forward to introducing more shows to you each and every week. And with that, we're signing off today. Enjoy the episodes and make it a great day ahead.